I'm Luke, and I've been committed to a vegan lifestyle for a little over a year now. Have you ever wondered what veganism is and what makes vegans tick? Is veganism just a trend for overly sensitive hipsters, or are there more important reasons inspiring the movement? Let's plant our feet and sink our canines into this meaty topic. The first step in any controversial topic is to agree upon our terms. Veganism can be defined differently depending on who you ask. For me personally, I find the most helpful definition of veganism to simply be reducing unnecessary harm and suffering in other creatures. But let's stick with one of the most currently agreed upon definitions from the Vegan Society website. It currently reads, veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partially from animals. There are various intricacies and ways of interpreting this that aren't so clear. For example, when it mentions in the definition excluding all forms of exploitation of, if you Google what exploitation is, you will likely see a few different definitions teetering between 1, the action or act of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work, or 2, the action of making use of and benefiting from resources. Did you notice the critical difference between these two? The first implies unfairness, which is often considered cruel, and the latter can be mutually beneficial or not involving cruelty at all. Terms like these don't interpret themselves and require respectful dialogue to achieve clarity if we want to progress. This leads us to many challenging questions like, is any form of exploitation, cruel or not, considered vegan? Or are mutual relationships with animals where you receive some sort of benefit, such as gaining companionship from your dog, or using chicken poop from your hens as garden fertilizer, disqualify you from the vegan title? Sometimes omnivores, carnivores, and herbivorous vegans alike cannot see the forest for the trees when it comes to things like veganism. We tend to either hyper-focus on qualifying for a title such as vegan, and often our message comes off as holier than thou because of bad tact, or maybe our audience is ready to interpret it negatively before the discussion even begins by throwing preemptive attacks, or maybe some sort of combination of both. Effective communication can be really difficult sometimes.
So you're vegan now?
Yeah, I committed a few months back.
Don't you sit in a leather office chair at work?
Those are the only ones available.
Are you wearing suede shoelaces made from the corpses of dead animals right now?
Well, I bought them before I committed to veganism. Besides, purchasing the animal products is where I think the damage is done because it raises supply and demand.
Hold up. I saw you eating a piece of a turkey sandwich the other day.
My kid was going to throw away what was left, and I thought it'd be impractical to waste it.
Well, I don't consider it practical, and I find it disgusting that you would eat that. I hereby declare that you are not a true vegan. So veganism is less about perfectionism and more about a direction you are going. Cheesy scenarios like this are nothing new, of course. If you have any religious or political background, you might be able to resonate with some of these issues. Though let's be clear, there is a difference between someone who makes mistakes and is still trying versus someone who makes mistakes and puts forth no effort at all. One is apathetically stagnant, while the other is going in a direction, even if slowly or unseen. Definitions and personal identity titles can be helpful, but let's put them aside for now and zoom in on the why does veganism even matter question. I can't speak for all vegans, but for me personally, kindness and compassion towards other beings and their well-being are the core motivators. This just naturally leads me to making vegan choices in my diet and purchases most of the time. There are still all sorts of little nuances, conundrums, and moral distinctions in the choices we make, and what looks practicable and possible for you might not look the same for me. But that shouldn't stop us from encouraging each other and being open to accountability. Of course, there are plenty of other reasons to consider veganism besides kindness and compassion for other creatures. One such reason is lowering risk for pandemics in the future by reducing factory farming. Factory farms are a breeding ground for disease. We don't exactly make them social distance in there for their short, miserable lives before slaughtering them so we can enjoy bacon with our biscuits. Another reason is climate change. Nearly half of the world's causes of ocean pollution is fishing nets. And we have dead zones in the oceans due to manure lagoons and runoff from factory farming that kill phytoplankton, that reduce CO2 levels in the atmosphere and prevent rising sea temperatures. Another reason could be potentially solving world hunger. With the growing population, meat is not a sustainable resource for the reason that it takes 4 times more land to grow the crops that we feed the animals than if we were to use the land for the crops to directly feed us. NASA goes as far as to say that the single biggest direct cause of tropical deforestation is conversion to cropland and pasture. If we just ate the crops directly, this would drastically reduce the amount of land needed for our food. Some skeptics might fairly point out that a lot of land is non-arable, and this is true, but there might be future ways to utilize the land in a way that doesn't involve slaughter, such as vertical gardening. At the end of the day though, even these other reasons boil down to kindness and compassion towards ourselves and others to forge a better world. Veganism is an option we can often choose to live that out for our fellow earthlings and the well-being of future generations. Thanks for watching. This is a dense topic and much more can be discussed that I intentionally left out, but hopefully this provided a little bit more clarity. Until next time, friends.